Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. Um, Today's episode of In Review, I will be going over The Strangers, the complete saga, chapters 1 through 3. I just recently got done watching chapter 3, and figured it would be the perfect time to go over and review the entire saga. This is a kind of a redo of the Strangers story. The Strangers originally was a film, I believe, done in 2006. Um, and it was a horror movie done by Universal. Um, and it was kind of this same. This one was more in depth and kind of went in a different direction, I believe. I think I've not seen the original Strangers, but this was a sort of redo of the original, which did get a sequel, I believe in 2018, called Strangers Pray at Night. But this specific version of the Strangers um, was originally one story, and then it was split up into three different parts. And originally, I believe they said it wouldn't be all released unless it depended on how well the first one did. And I'm assuming since we have part three that it did fairly well because we've gotten all three parts now. Um, and this is just my understanding of how it all went down because I know it's went through a bit of an odd uh, production cycle as to how it was made, how it was done, handled, and then later distributed and everything. But this version was released through Lionsgate, and it was okay. I understand what they were trying to do, the direction they went with this. Do I think it needed to be done in three different films? No. While I do understand and appreciate them being able to lay out all the groundwork and build it up, I do think it's a bit too much, especially three 2.5 hour films that kind of drag a bit, just because there's so much to take in. I actually thought three was like the shortest of them all, but you definitely feel the run times in certain moments, just because it is very, you know, um, filled with things to lay out the groundwork to flesh out this world and the story and all the characters involved. Um, but it was good. I think this could have passed for a 3 or 4 hour movie as opposed to just three separate films, or maybe even just two, just split it up into two films, and maybe each one being 3 hours or so apiece. I think would have been better. Now, yes, I do understand that 3 hours is long for a film, and especially since it's rated R, that would really limit the amount of screen time and showings that would be available for it. Um, since there's only a certain amount of times they can show it because of how long it is, and then also, of course, the limit of how many people can watch it due to age restrictions. But I think it would have served it a lot better story wise, because I do think that making it three separate films was a bit much. Um, the story this time around is a couple go down to this town. I wanna say in Georgia. Um, I could be wrong on that. This was a few days ago. I watched the final movie, and I'm already kind of a bit hazy on it. So I'm trying to do the best I can to remember everything that happens. Especially because it's been a hot minute since I've seen the first one. Um, but the first one starts, with the couple, going on a vacation. They're staying in this Airbnb place, this house that they've kind of rented for a while, to stay at. And it is while they're here in this house that the strangers stop by, and they knock on the door, and they do the whole is Tamara here, and everything. And it's kind of during this that they realize the townspeople seem kind of off. They don't know who this Tamara person is. They're wondering why these people keep coming back to the house and bothering them when they've not done anything wrong. And it and then the film pretty much ends with the strangers finally breaking into the house, capturing both the people, and uh, supposedly killing both of them. They kill the guy. The girl ends up living and is rushed then to the hospital, um, which is rare because apparently none of them ever survive. Yet somehow she did, and that's kind of where we pick up in part two. Is we're now in the hospital, and people are wondering why is she different? Why did she survive? This has never happened before, and people are kind of panicking because now we're kind of being shown that everyone in this town is in on it. They know about the strangers, they know about what happens. And in part three, we later find out that they are all fine with it because it's never been people that live in the town, it's always been outsiders. And they have always just kind of turned a blind eye to it because it's not their own people that they're killing. So they feel that it's not completely wrong, even though it's still wrong. It's still murder and everything. But we find out the whole town's in on it. They all know about the killers and everything. And we find out that the main character's sister is out of town. She's on her way to come get her or find her. And is then made aware that her boyfriend, I want to say his name was Ryan, died after the events of the first film. Um, and I can't remember if the characters were engaged or if they were married. I'm thinking they were engaged because I think it was her fiance. The Ryan character, if that is his name. Again, I could be completely wrong on that. Um, and so now she's in this hospital. She's remembering everything that's happened. She's still reeling in from the loss and processing everything that happened. And then all of a sudden the strangers come into the hospital and are trying to attack her to finish what they started and didn't. They didn't kill her. They're trying to finish that now. So she's running around the whole hospital, still injured. She's still got the stab wound in her chest, from the blade. um, and she's just trying to find different ways to hide, to escape, try to survive. And eventually she manages to outmaneuver the strangers, and she gets out of the hospital, and she ends up in the company of some townsfolk. They try reassuring her, everything's okay. They take her to their place, where they try to patch her up, help her out. Um, Only for the strangers to then come in, kill the entire family of people that's trying to help her, and her run away. There is a middle part of this I'm skipping just to try to quickly go over the whole plot. Um, but after the strangers show up, she quickly runs outside, gets an ambulance, and drives off. The strangers get in the red pickup truck and go after her. There's an accident, and the ambulance is like completely overturned. One of the strangers grabs the woman, the main character, and in an effort to try to save herself, uh, the main character kills one of them. Um, so now they're down a person, so it's just two. Um, and she's kind of gotten like an upper hand, like, oh, she's now killed one of them. Now things are starting to, pick up. They're starting to get a little bit interesting. And that is where chapter two ends. And it is during the events of the second film that we find out that the person that ends up dying is a townsfolk that we see in chapter one. And the whole backstory of who Tamara is also explained in this. And the whole story behind that is that the main guy who's in the sackcloth mask that always carries the axe around in the film was that there's a girl that had a crush on him, but this character liked him so much and didn't like that she had a crush on him, so she killed her just to be with him. And the girl that she killed that had the crush on the guy was named Tamara, and that's why they're always asking when they knock, is Tamara here? Which of course she's not because she's dead. Um, and they do the whole lore, they do the whole backstory, very dark and disturbing. Um, this little girl and everything she does leading up to her killing Tamara, I believe by stoning her. I believe she bashes her head in with a brick or something. Um, so yes, very violent. And I think that's actually the most violent thing in the whole trilogy. I don't think anything else is really that bad. Um, as far as violence and blood, I think two's got the most of it. And then, so that ends there on chapter two. Chapter three picks up exactly where it left off. Uh, you know, they're still trying to process the fact that one of them just got killed after the main character runs away. She's hiding in the forest trying to figure out, I just killed one of these people. What are they gonna do now? Am I dead? Like, what did I just do? Um, and the guy is just kind of at a loss since they kind of had a connection. And in rage, he takes the axe and just starts hacking at her dead corpse while it's still lying there on the road. And then he picks up the body, carries it, puts it in the back of the trunk, and then takes off her mask and just takes it with him. And then they drive off. Um, After they drive off, she gets out of the forest, tries to go alongside the road, try to get her way out of town so she can get out of there, um, just be done with everything. When the local sheriff comes in, and tries to offer her a ride and help, and it is after tricking him to then get the car for herself and drive off, leaving him behind. It is then when we get a flashback revealing that the sheriff is the main killer's father, and that is how he's involved in this. And you start very well getting the sense that everyone is very much part of this, and it starts becoming a lot larger. Um, because that's something I don't know as if it was done in the original. Because, like I said, I'm not seeing the original, but I think having the whole town in on it was a big thing. The not knowing who to trust, not being able to trust anyone, I thought was a good aspect. I thought it was done pretty well. And definitely the way they played it up, like, oh, he's this guy's dad. Like, I was not expecting that kind of connection to the characters. I thought that was a well done surprise in part three. Um, and I guess from there I'll kind of stop going into detail because three is still fairly new. I believe it came out the beginning of this year. So if you guys still want to see chapter three, um, go ahead and check it out. It is available to buy, as well as the other two chapters. And I'll kind of just stop there. That way I'm not spoiling this for anyone else, since this is still a this year new movie. It's not too new because I think it's been out for a while. But it's still this year. It's still kind of fresh. So I'll kind of stop it there on going into too much detail. Um, which is actually also good for me because, like I said, I can't remember half of any of this crap anymore. Which is bad because, considering my age, I shouldn't be forgetting crap this quick because I just watched this like less than a week ago, I think. And there's just been so much going on for me recently. Um, but that's kind of why I wanted to go ahead and record this video, just to get it out of the way while I still remembered some of it and had it, somewhat still recently tracked in my head. Um, give you my thoughts and opinions on it. Um, but like I said, it was good. Um, I think it would have been a lot better if it was brought in a different way. Because I do really think that splitting it up over the course of three films is just a bit much story wise. Because there's so much to follow and sit through and be invested in. And again, not that it's bad, because I mean it's a lot more extra world building and time you're spending in this saga, this franchise. Um, but I do think the film does suffer because of it. Um, would I be interested in seeing more? Probably not. I mean, and technically, the way they end three, they could do more. Um, I just don't know if that's something I'd be interested in. Um, not because of how they ended it and where it would pick up if they decided to do more, but just because I feel like that's just such a good ending to just leave it on, that I don't think there's anything else you could do to add to it. Um, I think a good example of this is El Camino, the Breaking Bad movie. Um, Everyone was kind of wondering, we'd love to see more. What would happen next? And I watched El Camino, and although it was nice seeing all the characters again, it wasn't really necessary. Like it was like 2 hours, which is the length of about two Breaking Bad episodes. If there's no ads or anything. And it's like, what really can you get done in that amount of time? And there wasn't really a whole lot done. It was just kind of like a bookend, kind of, giving you closure that you didn't really think you needed. Um, for the character of Jesse Pinkman to know that he's still out, he's still alive, living his life now after being, in prison for a while. And while it was a good movie, and like I said, it was good seeing all the characters again, the cast members, interacting with each other one last time, it definitely didn't feel necessary. And that's how I kind of would think another Strangers film would be for this version of the Strangers, anyways. It would, it would be okay and accepted, but also a bit unnecessary. And probably I don't think a lot of people would want to spend time with it, especially after these last three movies. Now, again, they're not bad movies, but as something that's supposed to be just one big thing, it is quite a bit to take in over the course of three films. Now, what I wanted to do was find a version online, or just rent the other two films before watching three that I'd gotten from the library. Um, that way I could watch it all cohesively without any breaks or any interruptions, and I could see from beginning to end how the story worked. Because it had been a while since I'd seen one and two before three came in, since three came out this year and two came out last year. And I mean, they do a good a bit of leaving you enough at the beginning to remember what happened at the end of the last one, and then they kind of do a bit of backtracking and recapping as you're going along, which is nice. But I do think it would have been better had I watched the others first, since it is because like I said, the ending and beginnings of the films, pick up like right after each other. Like there's no break at all. It's like This is where it ends. Cut. This is where it begins. If you edit out that cut that splits them into two separate things, it's just one big long film that's like 6 hours long. Um, because like there's no breaks at all in the story. Like it's all cohesive. Like it all works together. Um, but I would actually like it if they released a version of it where it's all three films, no breaks on one disc, and you can just watch the entire thing as one thing, the way it was kind of meant to be. I think would be kind of nice. Do I think I'd sit through it all? No, I'd probably take a break halfway through because it would be 6 hours long. It would be kind of long. But and this is an estimate because they feel like they're about 2.5 hours long. Are they 2.5 hours long? Probably not. They're probably a little shorter than that. But still, this is just my general bullshitting of it. Pretty much. Just kind of uh coming up with random numbers as a scenario example. Um, but yeah, I do think this would have worked well as just one title instead of three. Um, and I do think that it does suffer a bit from this. I rating what? Excuse me. Rating wise, out of 5 stars, I'd probably give this 3 out of 5. It's not bad, but it definitely does suffer again due to certain elements of not the story, but how the story's done. Again, the runtime and the way they split it into three separate films, I think, definitely drags it a bit. Um, but other than that, it was a very interesting story, and I was at least invested enough to at least watch part three. It's not like, oh, I watched part two, and I don't even know as if I want to see part three. It still had me invested enough that, oh, well, I've seen this, now I got to go see this to see how it ends because I was invested. And definitely the second ending definitely gets you there and wanting to see, oh well, now I need to see how it ends because the ending of her killing the one stranger definitely heightened it. So you're like, oh shit, one of them's dead now. How is it gonna go on? And it definitely makes it a lot more interesting and wanting to see what happens next. And I think that was done pretty well because the ending of one was a kind of a bit lackluster. It's like, oh, I guess he did survive. Well, what now? Which would then be answered in the second one. But I think the ending of the second one had a better payoff in part three because of the build up. I think the build up was there, the hype was there because there were higher stakes now. Now that we had gotten to a certain point, you actually felt something. You're interesting. You're excited. You're wanting to see what would happen next, and I think that's why part two or chapter two, I think is one of my favorites out of the trilogy. If I had to rate these in order of like best to worst, I definitely do two, then one, then three. I definitely think three is the weakest one of them. One is kind of in the middle. I mean, because there's a lot of extra world building you have to do in the first one to get you set up for the whole story that's getting ready to unfold in front of you. And two being the middle part of it, there was enough stuff already set up, and then like I said, the end, the cutoff, the build up, the climax of the film that makes you want more. I think was really well done and well handled, and I think that's why part two is definitely the best of the three films. Um, but yeah, this was something I had seen forever ago, and I heard mixed reviews about it. And I had heard that well, depending on how part one does, will determine on if it's released in theaters. Because I think the debate was if it didn't do well, they wouldn't release it in theaters. They would just put it on streaming because they'd already shot all of it. They'd shot it as if it was one giant movie, which I think is also why I thought it was odd they cut it into three different films because they just shot it all at once. Which I mean, I guess is nice because then you do get that. that nice cohesion in the filming, because it, you feel everything is connected because, well, it was all filmed at the same time, so it kind of is connected. But I think that was part of kind of what I was trying to talk about earlier, was that it was determined, depending on how well it did, if it would get proper releases. Because even though they had already filmed it and were planning on releasing it, I think it was the theatrical releasing that was in question. Because, like I said, Lionsgate's the one that released them. And I know Lionsgate every once in a while will release a digital only thing that won't go to streaming. Or theaters, I mean. It'll go straight to streaming. I think there are a few Jason Statham films that have had that treatment. Um, Hell, I think even Bloodsport with Vin Diesel was one of them. I think I don't recall that going to theaters, and that could also have been a case of COVID as well. I think that came out during COVID, which I think also is why that didn't go to theaters. If I remember correctly, I could be wrong on that. Um, do I think they could have gone to theaters? I mean, yes, because I know they went to theaters. I think they would have done just as well if they were thrown into streaming. I almost think they maybe would have just done better because, like I said, it is drawn out quite a bit, being over the course of three films. I think if it was just released on a streaming platform, all three at once, the people wanting to go on the platform to watch all three at once, just sit through and watch all three at the same time, is better rewarding, not only for the people watching it, but I think for the platform as well, because not only would they want to watch the first one, they would also be able to watch the second and the third right then and there. And if the story's, engaging enough, they'd want to go straight from the first one to the second one. So they would automatically get those views because of how the story's set up. Because, you watched one, now here's the second one, you can see what happens next. Um, I think theater's fine. I mean, I'm personally happy that stuff's getting physical, theatrical releases. I wish more things could get physical, or Christ, theatrical releases. Um, but I know not everyone's always blessed with getting that, and certain studios like Lionsgate doesn't always have that luxury. Um, because Lionsgate checks out like quite a big number of films a year. I want to say it's like over 1,000. And like quite a huge bit of those are just straight to streaming. Um, so it's definitely a big company that does like a lot of titles a year. So it wouldn't have been the worst thing if it went to digital. I mean, most like I said, most Lionsgate films I feel do go just straight to streaming. Um, but um, I guess it just depends on who you are and how you feel. If you feel it's good enough for theaters. Um, but yeah. So probably ought to stop rambling by now. Um, I've been, let's see, I've been recording for about 30 minutes almost. So I think I'll just end the episode there. Um, but yeah, so let me know in the comments what you thought of The Strangers. If you thought the way they did this, splitting it into three separate films, was good. If you had problems with how they handled it, the story, or just how they released it, let me know in the comments. And until the next episode.